Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get this session here started, this special session. We'll call this meeting to order at 10:23. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Councilman Standing Soldier for the opening prayer.
Ea tungasla wa kantanka. În particular wopla tanka chitiapi. Ho tungasla unshila pielo. Awa uya kapikte. Dakuichu kupihana. Ukin saki manikte. Ho hechetu. Dakuya yasi.
Oh, Wopila. Councilwoman Spotted Bear, can you give us some words of encouragement?
Thank you, President. I just want to say good morning to my colleagues and good morning to those that are in the audience and those who are listening. It's cold out, so I encourage everyone to prepare themselves, prepare their winter safety kits, and make sure that you are able to respond accordingly. And I just want to encourage my colleagues to make the best decisions for the people and for the Oyate out there, as every decision we make in this circle affects them. Thank you.
Oh, Wopila. Secretary, roll call.
Good morning, Tribal Council and guests, and I just want to say that I'm really thankful that there was no lives lost in the fire this morning, and I pray for all our relatives over in Medicine Root, and I hope that we can all come together to help them through this loss. And I have a lot of relatives over there, so I just wanted to extend that and say good morning to everybody. David Puyer? Troy Little?
Here.
Richard Greenwald Sr.?
Here.
Blaine Little Thunder?
Here.
Jeremy Rosales is excused. Beef Randall is excused. James Cross is excused. Anna Halverson?
Present.
Jackie Sears?
Here.
Donroy Gosbear? Bo Little White Man is excused. Garfield Still? Lyle Weston?
Present.
Norman Standing Soldier?
Here.
David Kelly is excused. Sonia Little Hawk Weston?
Here.
Julian Spotted Bear?
Present.
Tyler Lunderman?
Here.
George Dreamer Jr.?
Present.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr. is excused. Craig Dillon?
Here.
$14 present, 1 absent, 6 excused. We established quorum.
Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
I have a 2/3 agenda item for HHS that I'd like to add on.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to add on a 2/3 item also, 2 complaints. And I'd like to see if we can put those on the agenda before item number 2.
Turn your mic on.
Can you use your mic?
Okay, for HHS, resolution to reject any agreement with the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and for nation-to-nation consultation with the Secretary of the Interior on the detention of the Oglala Sioux tribal members by ICE. Motion.
I think they're making copies. Yeah, so they'll get you copies. Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Lunderman. Of a second? Councilman Little? Roll call?
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
Not voting.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears, Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Garfield Still,
Yep.
Craig Dillon,
Yes.
David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes.
14 yes, 1 no, 1 not voting, motion carried. Councilman Standing Soldier.
I'm a firm believer that everybody has a voice and they should be heard. So on January 9th, a motion was made that the marijuana ordinance, due to a lack of public hearing, be forwarded on to the January 14th meeting, but that meeting wasn't held. So what is your procedure for dealing with that situation?
Is that what you wanted to do, 2/3 it?
Well, I would like to know what the procedure is in moving it forward. Because there was a motion was made in committee and we should respect the committee's actions. But that meeting was postponed. So I don't know where it would go after that.
Okay, so anytime there is a special meeting, you guys have a request that is filled out, and 14 of you need to sign that request. You also state your items that are on the request. Any items that come after that request is submitted needs to be 2/3 because it isn't on the letter that you guys requested. Even though a committee can make an action for it, it still needs to come to the meeting and get 2/3 done. And it's been done that way before. We've had issues that were 2/3 done because they weren't on the letter of request.
So you want to motion that?
Yes, 2/3 are done.
Okay. Okay, we got a question over here, go ahead.
At the meeting in the casino, I believe it was, we had a discussion about this, and the growers and the owners of the dispensaries wanted some input on this. And even the commission was in agreement that they didn't have no input on it. And so we made a motion from there to resend this and set it for 60 days so they could have input on it, so everybody would be on the same page. Because there was a number of individuals there who stated they would go out of business, which would put about 35 to 40 people out of work. So that was the discussion that we had. I hope everybody doesn't have amnesia and remembers that, because it passed in the committee meeting. And they're supposed to have public hearings so the people will know what's coming down. And the reason we're doing this is because the people did vote to have it on the reservation. It passed in a referendum vote. So that's what we talked about, and that's what the action was taken.
Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
Thank you. Well, thank you for motioning to two-thirds this item on. That's what we intended on doing today, because we did not have the meeting last weekend, and the director of the marijuana marijuana program is going to abide by the ordinance stated during that meeting to follow the public hearings process and also bring this back. What we need today is for the ordinance that was passed to be temporarily suspended until that hearing is done, and that's why we needed two-thirds it on today. Thank you. I'll second that.
Okay, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Secretary, roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Abstain.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
No.
Lyle Weston,
Abstain.
Jackie Sears,
Abstain.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Garfield Still,
No voting.
Craig Dillon. David Poyer. Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
Okay. 9 yes, 1 no, 3 abstain, 1 not voting. According to our two-thirds here, motion failed. Go ahead, Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
With that being stated, I believe a statement needs to be discussed with the director and how it's going to move forward, and maybe we move it to the end of the month council session, because right now, the concern is there was no public hearing for our dispensaries to provide any input on how it's going to affect their businesses. So as it stands, they'll still go by the current ordinance that was passed in December.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilman Greenwald.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I prepared myself for a meeting on what we put on the agenda. Now it's turning into this big old, long, all-day, full, blown-out meeting that none of us were prepared for. We didn't get all the stuff that's being added on. There is no stuff sent to us to prepare for it. You know, we want to come in here and have a good meeting and get our chief judge and some of these stuff passed. Here we are again, adding stuff onto a special. Next week is our next meeting already. Why can't some of this stuff wait till the regular meeting when we have complaints on there, we have all this stuff on there? We're just shooting from the hip again. Here we go again.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
You know, I think, first of all, I just want to say good morning, Hihani Washte, to my colleagues and the executive board, our attorneys and our guests in the audience and on Zoom this morning. You know, sometimes as tribal council, we do have some pressing issues that sometimes hit the council floor. And I do know that there's things that are happening outside of our reservation boundaries that affect our tribal members. And so today, you know, with some of the things that we had to 2/3 on, I think we need to take some type of action on those, because our district members living off the reservation are affected by this. So I do agree sometimes that when we shoot from the hip, you know, and we take actions on certain things and we vote on it, that's what happened at Wounded Knee, you know, and we shot from the hip and we voted on something that we didn't even take back to our Law and Order Committee to act on and bring forward. But that's the way the council has operated, you know, for the longest time. So, you know, as elected leaders, you know, sometimes, you know, we're put in a position when we run for this position that this is what's going to happen. This is our job. You know, we always say we're 24/7, so, you know, things are going to come to us. I myself, you know, don't bother me to sit here. I remember sitting here in this chambers till 11 o'clock at night finishing an agenda. You know, that has happened many times by past presidents. So today, I just want to say that, you know, that we need to move forward and act on what's in front of us. You know, I'm the one that added some of these things on through Law and Order Committee. And Law and Order Committee, you know, approved it. We would only act on certain things, but I think that 2/3 stuff went away. Now we can 2/3 even at special council meetings. Before it was just emergency items, but now that was rescinded. So today we 2/3 things on that we think is emergency. And I think some of the things that we need to talk about today, you know, we're coming from Law and Order Committee. And out of respect for Law and Order Committee, you know, we have these items that need to be acted on today. And one is the Chief of Police's contract. So before we get to that, there's things that we need to talk about before we get to that. So I myself, as a tribal elected leader, I'm going to have to say that today, that we need to do that. You know, and those discussions need to happen here in the circle. And if it has to go into executive, we can do that. But that's our job. So I just wanted to say that today. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to approval of agenda. Motion.
What about your complaints?
Oh, yeah, I thought we added the complaints on there already. So we got to. Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Attorney, what's the process for complaints on the chief?
We don't really have one unless it's in the contract.
Okay.
Since there's no contract, any suspension, disciplinary action, supervision goes with the entity that appoints them. So that comes under our political personnel policy manual for political appointees.
Okay.
So if we need a motion to approve the agenda, I'll motion.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda by Councilman Weston. Second by Councilman Dreamer. Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Oh, huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Garfield Still,
Yep.
Craig Dillon, David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes. Unanimous, 16, motion carried.
So Chair, did we approve the agenda without the complaints then? So, because I don't remember us doing a vote on the complaints. So if that's the case, I'm happy with that. We can move on.
I thought. I think it's automatic, isn't it? Not on special?
Add it on to next week.
I'm going to recommend that you address them today before you discuss the chief of police contract.
Well, you should have recommended before we ran that vote. Now we gotta open the agenda and add them.
All the complaints are
You-
listing on the.
No, we never. Nope.
Go ahead,
Good morning, Council. I
Councilman.
want to call a point of order here. You guys are all talking at once. And could you please use your mic, because the listening audience wants to hear what you all have to say about this. This is a very important
Council,
decision. Thank you.
Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston.
Yeah, I've always known that complaints were automatically on the agenda. And so I never heard of us two-thirds or anything like that. Complaints, they were just automatic. They were already on the agenda. When we have anybody that files a complaint, whether it's a special or a regular session, it was always on the agenda. Secretary would put them on there. I never heard of us two-thirds a complaint, because people will come and file a complaint. There was a complaint filed against me at administration in Kyle. The day before the second day of the meeting, council didn't two-thirds my complaint. Secretary just brought it and said, this was filed on Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston, and so I brought it to the council floor. Nobody two-thirds that on. Never heard of that as long as I sat in this circle. So we acted on it. That day was acted on. So, Secretary, I think maybe you could.
And
Have
that has
something
been
to
the practice of administrations, because there's been also a time where during a council meeting, a complaint came, and it was written right there on the floor. And you guys discussed it, and it was never put, or two-thirds, or added to the agenda. And my process is, if a complaint is given to me prior to the meeting, I'll let the attorneys know, I'll make sure it's notarized by the individual, and then I'll put it on the agenda. However, there's been times where people come like the day of or the hour before, and they bring that complaint, and there's no time to say, okay, we'll add it to the, because it's always been automatic that complaints can come on the floor.
Excuse me, Secretary.
anytime.
Excuse me, Secretary. Council, can you give the Secretary your full attention here? I know what you're talking about is important, but please give her the respect and attention, as you guys would like the same too if somebody was talking.
Go ahead, Councilman Still.
Well, that's why, and Ed, you need to come in on time. You're not here all through the meetings, and you come in and then you do that. So be here through the whole meeting. And to the secretary and the attorney,
Okay, I will. Thank you.
that's, it says any complaint on an officer, the council, or the council. So there's a ordinance that is for council and officers of the council. But this is a complaint on the chief. That's why I asked you if there was a process. It don't spell out. That has nothing to do with complaints on council. Because that ordinance, something 41 dash whatever it was, says any complaint against a council or officer of the council takes precedence over any resolution or motion of the council, whatever. This is a a complaint that has nothing to do with the councilman, and that's why I asked for clarification. So if there's no, and you said it, there's no process. It has nothing to do with the complaints that are on council. It's a administrative complaint. And that's why we asked that question before the motion was ran. So, don't harp on us about whatever, because this is not, it has nothing to do with the councilman or an officer of the council.
Well, I guess to make things crystal clear, we'll have to go through that process of reopening the agenda and run a vote on the complaints.
Councilman Weston.
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion to reopen for the complaints to be added.
Okay, motion by Councilman Weston, second by Councilman Little. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman. No. Julian Spotted Bear. Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
No.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears, Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
No.
David Poyer,
No.
Norman Standing Soldier, Troy Little,
Yes. Nine-
this is to reopen the agenda, so it's okay.
9 yes, 4 no, 1 not voting, motion carried.
Motion to close. Add. So adding motion to add the 2 complaints.
Okay, motion to add the complaints, motion by Councilman Weston, second. Second by Councilman Little. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
No.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
No.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon, David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
No.
Troy Little,
Yes. Eight yes, 6 no, motion carried. In that case, from the 2/3,
Motion to close agenda.
failed. Okay, you got motion to close the agenda by Councilman Lunderman. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Standing Soldier. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
No.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Not voting.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Council, if you can use
David
your
Poyer.
microphone, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes. Fourteen yes, one not voting, motion carried. Okay, moving on. At this time, our next agenda item is a Law and Order Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to the chair.
Thank you, Chairman. We have a item here for the Chief Judge. Resolution of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving employment agreement between the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Laurel Ironclad to serve as interim judge. Skipping down to the fourth whereas on November 12, 2025, the Tribal Council enacted Resolution 25-221 appointing Laurel Ironclad as an interim chief judge for an unexpired term ending November 2026 and directing that contract to be negotiated and brought back to Tribal Council for approval. And whereas the employment agreement has been negotiated and reviewed by the Finance Committee and is recommending for approval by Tribal Council. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe hereby approves the attached employment agreement contract with Laurel Ironclad Incorporated herein by reference to be paid from the tribal court budget, and therefore be it resolved that the Tribal Council hereby authorizes and directs the tribal president or in his absence, the vice president to execute the attached employment agreement contract on behalf of the tribe. Certification motion.
Motion by Councilman Weston, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears, Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Yes.
David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
Sixteen unanimous, motion carried.
Okay, so item number 2, and this one is the contract for the chief of police. The resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the employment agreement with Ivor Crow Eagle as chief of police for the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Department of Public Safety. Skipping down to the fourth whereas on December 30th, 2025, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council took action to appoint Ivor Crow Eagle as the Oglala Sioux Tribe Department of Public Safety Chief of Police. And whereas the employment agreement for the position of Chief of Police has been negotiated and is recommended for approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby approve the employment agreement with Ivor Crow Eagle for the OST Department of Public Safety Chief of Police position as attached and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein. And am I missing a page? Because at the end of that, it says and. Oh, is that a typo? Okay. So, certification, and I'm gonna motion to table this until, we can hear those complaints, because it is very pertinent to this position. So that's my motion.
Okay, got a motion to table, second by Councilman Little. Roll call. Also, let's recognize Councilman Little White Man at 10:40. 10:46.
Blaine Little Thunder? Tyler Lunderman?
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear?
Yes.
Anna Halverson?
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.?
Yes.
Bo Little White Man?
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.?
No.
Lyle Weston?
Yes.
Jackie Sears?
Oh,
Sonia Little Hawk Weston?
ha.
Garfield Still? Craig Dillon?
No.
David Poyer? Norman Stunning Soldier?
No.
Troy Little?
Yes.
Okay. 11 yes, 4 no, motion carried.
Item number 3. Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe affirming the Tribal Council's interpretation of the 2/3 vote under the Constitution and bylaws, Article 11 amendments to mean 2/3 of the council at a duly held tribal council meeting, and confirming the request for secretarial election. Skipping down to the 4th whereas. Whereas the tribal council passed the OST Resolution 25-184, September 16, 2025, approving the call for a secretarial election to vote on 5 proposed constitutional amendments. And whereas the Bureau of Indian Affairs has requested a tribal resolution that affirms the tribal council's interpretation of 2/3 vote under Article 11 of the OST Constitution, and confirming the request for the secretarial election. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe has inherent authority to interpret its own constitution, and has interpreted that 2/3 vote under Article 11 means 2/3 vote of tribal council at a duly held meeting. And whereas the tribal council passed OST resolution on number 20-184, making a request for a secretarial election in accordance with the tribe's constitutional amendment requirements. And whereas the OST Law and Order Committee has reviewed the matter and recommends that the tribal council approve this ordinance, now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby affirm that the 2/3 of the tribal council under Article 11 of the Constitution means 2/3 of the council at a duly held meeting, and be it further ordained that the tribal council affirms that request for secretarial election pursuant to the OST Resolution 25-184 as follows. That the tribal council hereby requests the secretarial election where each of the following 5 proposed amendments are voted on individually by the tribal members. Amendment 1, Article 3, Governing Body, Section 4. The current language, each recognized district shall elect representatives to the tribal council in proportion of one representative for each 1,000 members or a remainder of more than 500. Recognized communities with less than 500 members shall be consolidated by the tribal council with adjacent recognized community. Proposed language, each recognized district shall elect one representative to the tribal council. Amendment 2, Article 3, Governing Body, Section 6. The current language, the officers of the tribal council shall be a president, vice president, elected by the members of the Oglala Sioux tribe at large, and a secretary, a treasurer, and such other officers as may deem necessary, elected by the tribal council from within or outside of its own number. Officers selected from the outside the membership of the council shall have no vote in the council, except that the president shall vote in the case of a tie. Proposed language, the officer of the tribal council shall be the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and fifth member, elected by the members of the Oglala Sioux tribe at large. Any additional officers may be deemed necessary shall be elected by the tribal council from within or outside of its own number. Officers selected from the outside, the member of the council shall have no vote in the council, except that the president shall vote in case of a tie. Amendment 3, Article 13, Responsibilities of the Executive Committee Officers, Section 4. Current language, the treasurer shall be custodian of all funds which come under the jurisdiction or control of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council. The treasurer shall pay out funds in accordance with the laws established by the tribal council and shall keep accounts of all receipts and disbursements and shall make written reports to the tribal council at each regular and special meeting. The treasurer shall be bonded in such an amount as the tribal council by law shall provide. The books of the treasurer shall be subject to inspection or audited by the direction of the tribal council. Proposed language, the treasurer shall be the custodian of the funds of the tribe received from any source whatever. They shall give bond with some corporate surely bonded company in such an amount that the tribal council shall fix. The treasurer shall keep an accurate record of all funds received and dispersed by them. They shall make a monthly report to the tribal council of all receipts and disbursements. Such report should be made under oath, and a copy of all reports shall be provided to the entire council. The records shall be open to inspection at any time and all times by the tribal council and any member of this tribe. They shall perform additional duties provided by the tribal council that pertain to the office of treasurer. Amendment 4, Article 3, Governing Body, Section 2. The current language, each district of the reservation as follows shall be entitled to representation on the tribal council according to population as hereinafter provided. Oglala District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through the district hearings. Wakpamni District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Mudini District, The tribal council shall describe boundaries by the ordinance with local participation through the district. Porcupine District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance within local participation through district hearings. Medicine Root District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through the district hearings. Eagle Nest, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through the district hearings. Pass Creek District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Lake Creek District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Pine Ridge District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Proposed language. Each district of the reservation as follows shall be entitled to representation on the tribal council as hereinafter provided. Oglala District, Wakpamni District, Wounded Knee District, Porcupine District, Medicine Root District, Eagle Nest District, Pass Creek District, Lake Creek District, Pine Ridge District. The tribal council shall describe district boundaries by ordinance with local participation through their district hearings. Amendment 5, Article 4, Powers of the Council, Section 1, Subsection C. The current language, to approve or veto any sale, disposition, lease, or encumbrance of the tribal lands, interest in lands, or other tribal assets which may be authorized or executed by the Secretary of Interior, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, or any other authorized official or agency of government, provided that no tribal lands shall be ever leased for a period exceeding 5 years, sold or encumbered except for governmental purposes. Proposed language. To approve or veto any sale, disposition, lease, or encumbrance of tribal lands, interest in lands, or other tribal assets which may be authorized or executed by the Secretary of Interior or the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, or any other authorized official or agency of government, provided that no tribal lands shall ever be leased for a period exceeding 30 years for residential purposes, with the option to renew not to exceed the total of 50 years, or 10 years business only, with the option to renew and not to exceed a total of 50 years or 5 years for any other leases, with the option to renew not to exceed a total of 15 years, or sold or encumbered except for governmental purposes. Be it further ordained that the tribal president is hereby authorized to inform the BIA of the above described tribal council request for secretarial election in a timely manner. Certification. And I also want to make a motion to table this for further review and clarification.
Okay, we got a table motion, so I don't want to, we'll run the motion. Motion by Councilman Weston, second. Who had their hand raised? So by Councilman Steele. And was it Councilman Puyer? It's already tabled, so I'm like, we can hear it afterwards. Call for the vote.
Blaine Little Thunder?
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman?
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear?
No.
Anna Halverson?
No.
George Dreamer Jr.?
No.
Bo Little White Man, Richard Greenwald Sr.,
No.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Not voting.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Voting.
Garfield Still,
Yes.
Craig Dillon, David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
No.
Troy Little,
No. Well, okay, we got 6 yes, 6 no, 3 not voting.
Now can we get a clarification?
Yes, we had a couple questions, and I'll turn it over to attorney. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh. With that, I'm going to vote yes.
to table.
Yes.
So,
That's what I wanted, some more clarification, but we wanted to run it.
yeah, I wanted to provide some clarification on this. So this is basically just the action that you took. Okay, so in Law and Order, I explained that we didn't have a 2/3 vote on December 30th to request the secretarial election. It passed the affirmation of what a 2/3 vote is, but it didn't meet the requirement for the secretarial election. So taking the resolution 25-184 language that requested it, and you guys passed that, but that one also was not a 2/3 vote. So, what I did was I just redid it, brought it back, included the language from Resolution 25-184, so that it's all in one document, and then we can move forward. You need to pass it by a minimum of a 14 vote, which the other two actions didn't have. So that's why it was brought forward.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
Thank you. And, I believe this is why it needs to be explained prior to running the vote, because you're allowing folks to make a decision in the blind. And it's really frustrating because we sat on this ordinance for how long? The only reservation I had with this ordinance was that it should have stayed at full council, because I remember this conversation in the two whereases on the front page. However, since it's tabled, I guess we'll discuss it again in Law and Order, and hopefully, in February, it'll pass.
Councilman Still.
Yeah, the point I was gonna make is that therefore be it ordained, it says that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby affirm by a 2/3 vote, the Tribal Council under Article 6 of the Constitution means 2/3 of the council at a duly held meeting. That tells me it's opposite from what we passed. It says council at a duly held meeting. Secondly, what ruined the past referendum was we were trying to cram 50 amendments into one vote. We're doing the same thing here. We're doing 5 amendments in one vote. It's all on one paper. So tell me there's 5 different ordinances here. There's not. There's one ordinance here with 5 issues on it. These should have been 5 separate ordinances read, but we did it all on one. So if I'm against Amendment 2 or Amendment 4, I'm voting no on all 5. So they should have been all addressed separately, because some of these I agree with, some I don't. So we need to do that out of law and order or something, separate all 5 of them and bring them forward, because that's how they were done in the past. There was never, ever a time when we passed amendments all on one document, and that's what killed that last secretarial election. So my recommendation is to bring 5 ordinances back.
Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston.
You know, I think that when we had the 2008 secretarial election, I don't recall it that way, because I think when the vote ballot came out, each one was explained exactly the way Councilman Weston read it. And then we voted either yes or no to that amendment. And that's how it passed. Now I'm pulling out this purple binder here that the secretary gave us at the beginning of our administration. And in there, our Constitution is in there, but it also has the amendments of 2008. And it tells how each one was voted on. And so that's how we voted on it that way back in 2008. The last one that Councilman Steele is talking about, that one there, you know, like he said, there was 50-something amendments to the Constitution, which, you know, even though it was ran through the BIA, and John Long was a superintendent that time, he was part of that. You know, they approved it there, they sent it on to the Secretary of Interior, and she's the one that voted. She stopped it because it was, some of the signatures were not the same. There was things wrong with the constitutional amendment at that time. This time around, they only bring 4 of them. But as council, they wanted that one on the land leases on there. So that's what was added on there. So if you all have your purple binder and you look for that Constitution, it's going to show you the secretarial election that took place in 2008. And it wasn't by ordinance, each one was passed. You know, so I don't know where that came from, but if you look at it, it explains the current and then what's going to be proposed. And on the bottom, it has, please check 1. Yes, I'm in favor of this amendment. No, leave it the way it is. And that's how the people voted on it. And that's how those were amended for 2008. So it's in your binder. And the superintendent, signed by all these ones. There's a resolution coming forward on the secretarial election, the committee that's going to be on there. And this one here, through the tribe, we had Wesley Chuck Jacobs, who was the tribal council at that time, and George Patton, our attorney. So those 2 sat on there, and the other 3 from the BIA. So those were certified by those 5. And so each one was done separately. So I don't know, we don't want to confuse the people, but that's why we're going to put this, the secretarial election committee on to work with the BIA, and you guys are probably going to have to get that straightened, make sure things are followed correctly. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I think that's on the agenda, and if that does pass, then I think that's something that you guys will probably need to discuss. But I just wanted to share that, but it's in that purple binder.
Councilman Weston.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I'd like to yield the floor to one of our elders here that wants to speak to council here.
Yep, go.
Mitake pi Johanna bet up. Mitchateta. Donna anakop tanakagle. Wa u as ungnala kalenach und chalel wahio. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to give every one of you a hearty handshake. I just heard this coming in, and our main concern is, and what I'd like to know. Just state your name for the record. Oh, okay. Barbara Dolknife Macha from Oglala District. Machpia Kwakawi. I was just coming to Pine Ridge when I heard the council and I'm on this group with the election committee. So I started to listen and I tried to get in here before, but I couldn't find a parking place. So anyway, what we're interested is when you say duly council, does that mean the 21 council people have to be present to the 2/3 on, or the people that's present? That's what we want clear. We've talked about that. We want to know if there's 15 people and 13 people is present to run a council, is that, and if we get 14 votes out of that. That's what people are confused, and I get calls from there, and I'm just getting texts and calls. This is not mine, it's not yours either. This is the people's vote. Oyate glena echa vote we didn't select these, we select 3 of them, and there was over 100 people there. You know, and then we narrowed it down to see what was going to be changed. I just want a clarification on what duly means, if it's 21 or the members present. I'd like to hear that now. People out there are wondering.
Hit it again. There you go.
I thought they didn't want me to talk anymore. But I just was coming, and I didn't even know we were on this agenda for this. We could have spoke. We've got some helpers here. I don't know if they want to say anything, but they showed up. Do you want to say anything? Just real quick. If it's possible. So these are just some of the things we discussed, and we're old now. We're all old, so we want to be clear. Is it 21 or is it going to be 16, 17 that's present? You know yourself, you can't even get a committee meeting going. You can't even get the whole full council. How many is here? Who's missing? So, you know, if we have to wait for the duly 21, we're never going to pass it. You know, and I'm not going to say I beg you, but think of your people, your constituents, you know, out there. Think about those people. Listen to them. And that's who I'm listening to. I can't make a decision by myself or the little group we have. We try our best. But just asking you, I'd like to make that clear. Which is it? What's 2/3? I'd like to know that. Just want to say my piece because I'm a little upset I couldn't find a parking place and I had to run across and Wopilatranka.
I'm going to let the attorney answer that, and then I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Okay, so duly held just means that it's a properly conducted meeting. It's correct. It doesn't have anything to do, well, it would if you didn't have quorum. You have to have, in order to have a duly held meeting, you have to have a quorum. So under the Constitution, with the number of council representatives that we have now, you need 14 to have a duly held meeting. To get 2/3 of the vote is 14. And what I was saying was the 2 prior actions did not have that vote. So we brought it back so that it could be voted on again in the hopes that it would get a 2/3 vote. Now, I didn't say anything. I was going to try to clarify, but then the motion to table occurred and I couldn't say anything. So that was that. And so duly held doesn't change anything. It just states that it's a properly conducted meeting. Is that everybody okay with that?
Councilman Poyer.
Chair, Buzz, you're slacking on your duties here. Once we tabled, it should have been tabled. That means no more discussion, but we're opening everything back up again. So let's move on with the agenda like we always do. We get back to a point of order here.
Duly noted.
Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston.
So just to clarify, this tabling motion that we just took and it passed with the president's voting, breaking the tie vote, will go back to the Law and Order Committee for further discussion. So we should have to bring it back next month because we're not going to have a Law and Order meeting till February 4th unless we call a special Law and Order meeting to approve it and bring it back at the next regular session. Maybe that's something we need to do.
Okay, moving on. Councilman?
Okay, so item number 5. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Is it 4? 4. 4, sorry. Item 4.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
What's the purpose of item 5 if item 4 has maybe all that should just go back to law and order then?
Councilman Still.
I think it'd still be good to have a committee in place, because those, believe it or not, those amendments will be back and they're gonna move forward, so at least we'd have something in place to move forward with.
Okay, so continuing. Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe amending ordinance number 25-14, revised exclusion and removal code section 2-6E, amending the process for notice and setting date and time of hearing. Skipping down to the 4th whereas the Tribal Council enacted ordinance number 25-14, revised exclusion and removal code that amended prior ordinances and includes the grounds and procedures for banishment from the lands of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas there are times that the banishment hearings take up too much time during Tribal Council and regular sessions when they are held. And whereas the OST Law and Order Committee has reviewed this matter and recommends that the Tribal Council amend ordinance number 25-14 by changing the process to allow for banishments to occur on a different date from the regular session, with the Tribal Council request a special sessions in accordance with the OST Constitution and the date and time determine the regular session. Now therefore be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby approve and amends ordinance number 25-14, revised exclusion and removal code section 2-6E, which shall now read as follows. Deletions in strike. No, okay. So, subsection A, section 2-6E, such notice, at the next regular session of the Tribal Council, the Tribal Secretary shall inform Tribal Council of the number of individuals on the list for exclusion and removal, banishment. The Tribal Council shall call for a special session in accordance with the OST Constitution, Article 16, Section 3, with a majority of the council members signing a written statement requesting a special session to determine whether the individual should be excluded and removed. The tribal council shall set the date and time no less than 10 working days for the hearing, and the tribal secretary shall notify all persons whose names are on the list prepared by legal department that they will be on the special session agenda for proposed exclusions and banishment from the reservation based on their charge or conviction of any crime stated within this code. Such notice shall be made on each person by hand delivery or certified United States mail. Return receipt requested to the person's last known address. Such notice shall be posted at Red Cloud Tribal Administration Building in Pine Ridge, at the Oglala Sioux Tribe Justice Center in Pine Ridge, and published in the Lakota Times or any other newspaper of general circulation on the reservation. The notice shall inform each person that he or she may appear before tribal council and be heard on the proposed exclusion and banishment from the reservation. The person may present evidence that he or she was not charged or convicted of a crime as stated within this code, or that his or her conviction was overturned. And be it further ordained that the ordinance shall take effect immediately and supersede, repeal, or replace all prior inconsistent laws of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Certification. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Weston. Second by Councilman Little. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man, Richard Greenwald Sr., Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Huh.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon, David Poyer, Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes. Twelve yes, 1 no, 2 not voting. Motion carried.
Item number 6. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe appointing Lyle Weston, Garfield Steele, and Rianne Redall to serve on the Secretarial Election Board. And skipping down, whereas part of the secretarial election process and pursuant to 25 CFR change 1 super chapter F, part of 81 subpart D, subsection 81.19 C, an election board will be established that includes the bureau employee that serves as board chair and at least 2 tribal members 18 years of age or older appointed by the tribe to serve on the board. And whereas the Law and Order Committee has discussed this matter and recommends that Lyle Weston, Garfield Steele, and Rianne Redall be appointed to serve on the Secretarial Election Board by the Tribal Council. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby appoint Lyle Weston, Garfield Steele, and Rianne Redall to serve on the Secretarial Election Board for the 2026 Secretarial Election. Certified. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Weston. Second by Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston and Councilwoman Sears.
Yeah, I want to question quorum. Every time a subject comes up, they're all leaving, so I'm going to question quorum.
Check it, look outside. Sergeant Arms. Roll call, Secretary.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear.
No.
This is, we're questioning quorum, present or not.
Oh, present.
Here.
Anna Halverson. Present.
Not here,
George Dreamer Jr.
Present.
Bo Little White Man.
Yo.
Present. Richard Greenwald Sr.
Here.
Lyle Weston.
Here.
Jackie Sears.
Here.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Here.
Garfield Steele. Craig Dillon.
Here.
David Puyer. Norman Standing Soldier.
Here.
Troy Little.
Here. Tell them they're doing a quorum check.
Garfield Steele. David Puyer. Quorum.
Okay, we have quorum. We have 15. Yeah, we're almost done here, so let's try to stay here and let's finish this agenda so we can go to lunch. Okay, we're gonna run the secretarial board. Secretary, call for the vote.
And just for clarification, so you know what you're voting on, is the resolution appointing Lyle Weston, Garfield Still, Rayanne Redall to serve on the Secretarial Election Board. Motion was made by Lyle Weston, seconded by Sonia Little Hawk Weston and Jackie Sears.
I questioned.
Oh, you just questioned? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll remove. Blaine Little Thunder.
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman. Julian
Yes.
Spotted Bear.
No.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Bo Little White Man.
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Sr.
Yes.
Lyle Weston.
Abstain.
Jackie Sears.
No. Yeah.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Ha.
Garfield Still.
Yep.
Craig Dillon.
Not voting.
David Puyer.
Not voting.
Norman Standing Soldier.
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes. 10 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain, 2 not voting. Motion carried. Question, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Could, maybe Rayanne, the attorney, could, you kind of elaborate or clarify this part where you guys will be working with the voices of the elders? I think these ones here that are sitting in the audience are part of the, working on it too, so they're wanting to know, because they're going to be out there too. So, I think they've been, could you clarify this part?
So the Secretarial Election Board is actually appointed by a BIA official, and, but you're appointing who you want here. So, but they convene a board who is responsible for getting the word out as far as notice and the voting and the actual election itself, and they carry out the election basically. And we would definitely communicate with the voices of elders, at least I will, so.
That's what I just wanted her to clarify that, because they're also doing that too. So
Yeah.
just want to, they'll be working together, I guess, on it.
Okay.
Okay, so item number 6. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the allocation of $150,000 to supplement the Attorney General Office budget to cover costs associated with the Inspector General. Skipping down to the 4th whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council established an Office of Inspector General pursuant to ordinance number 25-35, November 2025, and whereas the 2026 general fund budget of the Oglala Sioux Tribe has since been approved by the Oglala Sioux Tribe, and whereas the Finance Committee has reviewed the request to allocate $150,000 to the Attorney General's office to designate for the cost associated with Inspector General, including salaries and fringe. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby adopt and approve the allocation of $150,000 from general fund to the Attorney General's office budget designated for costs associated with the Inspector General's office, including salaries and fringe. Certification, motion.
Motion by Councilman Weston, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman.
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Bo Little White Man. Richard Greenwald Sr.
Yes.
Lyle Weston.
Yes.
Jackie Sears.
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston. Garfield Still. Craig Dillon.
Yes.
David Poyer. Norman Standing Soldier.
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes. Unanimous, 15, motion carried.
Thank you, Chair. That's all from Law and Order.
Okay, moving on to 2/3 item. I believe we're down to 1. HHS is the chair here.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman of HHS isn't here today, but I'm the vice, so.
Okay, turn it over to you.
But I'd like to ask if our secretary could read the resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Unincorporated Tribe. Resolution to reject any 8 USC subsection 287G agreement with the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and for nation-to-nation consultations with the Secretary of the Interior on the detention of Oglala Sioux tribal members by ICE. We have the sovereignty clause, and whereas under Article 4, Sections 1 of the Tribal Constitution, the Tribal Council has power to promulgate and enforce ordinances governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Article 4, Sections 1K, adopt laws protecting and promoting the general welfare of the Oglala Sioux tribe and its membership. Article 4, Sections 1W, and advise and consult with the representatives of the Interior Department on all activities that may affect the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Article 4, Sections 1A. And whereas federal officials have suggested to several tribes, including the Oglala Sioux tribe, that they should consider partnership agreements with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security pursuant to subsection 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act, codified at 8 U.S.C. subsection 1357G. And whereas a 287G agreement authorizes U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to partner with state and local law enforcement agencies, LEAs, deputizing their officers to perform certain immigration enforcement functions under ICE's direction, enabling them to identify, process, and detain removable immigrants encountered during routine duties, enhancing federal immigration enforcement through local participation. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council has considered the recommendation of the United States as the tribe's trustee and does not believe that a 287G agreement is necessary or in the best interests of the Oglala Sioux tribe for the following reasons. Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act authorizes the federal government to enter into voluntary agreements with state and local law enforcement agencies to perform limited immigration enforcement functions under federal supervision. Tribal governments are not states or political subdivisions of states. A county or state 287G agreement does not extend onto tribal lands, does not bind tribal governments, and does not confer authority over tribal members. Tribes are therefore not subject to 287G agreements unless a tribe affirmatively or expressively enters such an agreement through its own sovereign authority. State or county officers operating under 287G agreement lose any delegation immigration authority upon entering Indian country unless they are separately cross-deputized or authorized by the tribe. And 287G authority cannot lawfully be exercised against United States citizens. Any reliance on a 287G agreement to detain, question, or transfer custody of an Oglala Sioux tribal member by ICE who are also United States citizens is unlawful and exposes participating federal, state, and local agencies to civil rights liability. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council has determined that the Oglala Sioux tribe as a sovereign nation will not enter in an immigration agreement with the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement or the U.S. Department of Homeland Security pursuant to Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act or pursuant to 25 U.S.C. subsection 2804E or otherwise, and the Oglala Sioux tribe rejects the same. And be it further resolved that the Oglala Sioux tribe requests nation-to-nation consultations with the Secretary of Interior on the detention of Oglala Sioux tribal members by ICE and other ICE-related issues pursuant to Executive Order 13175, which requires consultation and coordination between federal agencies and tribal governments. And be it further resolved that the Tribal Secretary shall send a copy of this resolution to Doug Burgum, Secretary of Interior, with copies to Scott Davis, Senior Advisor to the Secretary of Interior, Olivia M. Steve, BIA Area Director, Great Plains Region, and Gina DeVille, BIA Superintendent for Pine Ridge Agency, by certified U.S. mail return receipt requested. And be it further resolved that the Tribal President is authorized and directed to execute this resolution on behalf of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Certification.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Lunderman, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Got a question? Go ahead, Councilwoman Harbison.
Thank you. You know, this 287G has been silently being forced onto by our state and by the government, trying to get us to authorize this 287G agreement. You know, I really have to say thank you to President Frank Stark comes out for recognizing that this 287G agreement was not in the best interest and was not allowing us as a tribe to go into agreement with it. You know, I really, I've heard other tribes talk about this 287G, and I really recommend that they have their attorneys and their departments look into how serious this is being forced onto us. And, you know, I just solely agree to this resolution to protect our homelands. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Question, go ahead, Councilman.
You know, all the surrounding tribes started to ban ice from the reservations, and I don't believe we took any action in regards to that. So what we're doing here is just basically saying we're not approving an agreement for them to work with our law enforcement, but I think we should take some similar action that they're not allowed on the reservation.
Do it separate.
And I thought we took that action in a committee. And it didn't get here.
Did you want to run a motion, separate motion?
Probably after this one.
Okay. Secretary, call for the vote.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman.
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Bo Little White Man. Richard Greenwald Sr.
Yes.
Lyle Weston.
Yeah.
Jackie Sears.
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Huh.
Garfield Still.
Yep.
Craig Dillon.
Yes.
David Poyer. Norman Stunning Soldier.
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes. Unanimous, 15, motion carried. Just wanted to comment on that real quick. That 287G was suggested, and I think that's kind of like what they would like tribes to look into. But like I said, you know, that's, to me, it affects our sovereignty. So it's probably not a good idea for us to follow that. Did mention that to other tribal leaders, and I'm hoping they take a look at that agreement and before they make decisions. So just something that we need to be aware of. But anyway, go ahead, Councilman Still.
Yeah, so I'll make that motion that we ban any ICE agents from coming on the Pioneer Indian Reservation boundaries.
Or activities.
Yep, and that the president put out a public notice. And if we could have our attorney draft ordinance for this, surely appreciate it.
Okay. Second by Councilman Lunderman. Roll call. Go ahead, Councilman Dreamer.
Thank you, Chair. Would that include all our treaty lands or just Pine Ridge, just on the Pioneer Indian Reservation?
Well, if we're talking treaty lands, that includes Rosebud and other areas, so I'd leave that up to them. You know, I'm just gonna keep my motion.
Okay, thanks.
For our Pioneer Indian Reservation, because, you know, other reservations and councils, you know, they seem to lean different areas in different ways than we do, so.
I think we should put some kind of language in there to protect our membership off reservation, something.
Well, the whole purpose of this is just to ban them from coming on the reservation.
All right. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Yes.
Tyler Lunderman.
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Bo Little White Man. Richard Greenwald Senior.
Yeah.
Lyle Weston.
Yes.
Jackie Sears.
Uh-huh.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Ha.
Garfield Steele.
Yes.
Craig Dillon.
Yes.
David Poyer. Norman Standing Soldier.
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes.
15 yes, unanimous, motion carried. Go ahead, Councilman Still.
Just real quick, Chairman, yesterday in HHS, they took action to send our department, our enrollment department to Denver for Friday and Saturday. So that is set up at the Four Winds Center in Denver from 8 to 4 for all the tribal members to come get an ID. And I believe travel was an issue, but you know, it's really, we got several calls from people how the membership's being treated and attacked in that area, but also in Sioux Falls. It's getting pretty bad in the Sioux Falls area. So, maybe if we could set some up in Sioux Falls also for, tribal members, because we had people reach out that do have a location in Sioux Falls, where people could come get a tribal ID. But, the wheels are in motion for Denver for Friday and Saturday. So I want to make a motion that we directed the tribal treasurer to take, the travel for our 2 program individuals and 2 security guards out of the general fund, for this coming weekend.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I was just told that the chief of staff maybe needs to ask some, maybe you might have questions on it. We're being told that they're not supposed to be off the reservation, these 638 programs, but we're allowing them to do that. I mean, so maybe we need to hear from this chief of staff here, because I do know last year during March Powwow, we did send the enrollment office to Denver, and they did set up at the Indian Center.
Yeah.
And they did do enrollment, tribal IDs there last year.
Just real quick, John, before you speak here, I think other tribes are sending their staff to the Denver March powwows. That'd be something to coordinate with if it does go, but you know, we have to see if our programs are capable of doing these things before we react. And that's what we did last week. We asked if enrollment was up and if it was capable. Do they have the capabilities of doing these things? And then we went to we got permission, but go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I think the concern from our program is the short notice. And we talked about doing it during Denver March to have more time to plan, because we got to look at our resources. We got to look at our cards, if we have enough cards and we need to order. I think this weekend is absolutely too short for them. Some of them raised concerns to me about, they had plans with their family this weekend and now they're being told they have to go to Denver. So I think if we just step back, take a minute and make a plan to do this, I think it would benefit our program and our tribal membership better.
Yeah, I agree, because I know some of the staff when before we were leaving had concerns of making a stop at Sioux Falls. And I was like, well, they have families too that we need to think about. So we have to think of our staff also, and make sure they're squared away. And I think Denver, if we plan it ahead, that we could work things off, travel and all that other thing, the things that need to happen, and unite with other tribes, because that's that's from what I'm hearing from other tribes, that it's a perfect opportunity if we plan it for the powwow in Denver. Go ahead, Councilwoman Halverson, and then, or Councilwoman Sears.
Yeah, I think we need to look at even their salaries, because if they're gonna be working over the weekend, that's what, time and a half, or, because their scope of work, we gotta make sure that they're within their scope of work, they're doing, and it's within the boundaries of the reservation, so we have to look at that too, and where the money's gonna come from to offset that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councilman Still.
They do get funding from the general fund, which is tribal dollars, to offset costs in their program. We gotta remember, we just took action banning ICE from the reservation, which secures us. We got tribal members out there being attacked daily because of the color of their skin, and they don't have identification cards or access to it because they live so far away, and a lot of them are on the streets. And it sounds to me we're just setting up a trip for Denver March powwow rather than worrying about our tribal members who are just trying to avoid being detained or harassed by ICE members. And so to me, that's just what it sounds like. We're finding a trip to Denver March. But you gotta remember, Denver March is in 2 months. So in the meantime, we're gonna allow our members to be harassed because they don't have identification. That's just what it sounds to me. It's just like on the daily, people, we've seen it in Minneapolis, how bad it is over there. And from the calls I receive from individuals, it's the same way. It's starting to get the same way in Sioux Falls and Denver. But that's fine. I'll retract my motion and just allow it, the things to go for Denver March, I guess. But just keep in mind we're getting calls from our relatives in those big cities that are in those hot areas, and they're in blue states. A lot of the blue states are the ones that are being attacked by ICE agents.
So, Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston, and then Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
I
Oh,
was
okay.
going to have the chief of staff answer that, but he did.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
Thank you. I have to agree with our chief of staff. There's planning that needs to be involved in this. Also, keep in mind, we have 30,000 enrolled members here on a reservation with pending agreements for their enrollment. So those are all things that we need to keep in mind. And when it comes regards funding, it should go through the appropriate avenues, because we just recently talked about in law and order not knee-jerk reacting or being proactive and not reactive, and we're being reactive 100% here. Planning really does make a difference. Having a contingency does make a difference. Understanding and knowing the intelligence out there does make a difference, and it involves communication and having true communication and true reportings so that we can make decisions. But we can't just jump every time, because in that case, we have relatives who are in Arizona, we have relatives who are in New Mexico, we even have relatives as far down as Louisiana and North Carolina. So are we gonna make a trip to every single state when it gets hot in those areas? We need to have a plan, and we need to understand true communication and reporting. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Elverson.
Thank you. Two things. I hate to jump back and forth between topics, but back to the 287G thing. Is it possible to have our lawyers draft a letter to send to the acting chief of police to not be authorized to sign any agreements with our legal? Or just notify him that there's no authority that he has to sign any agreements with pertaining to 287G. just for protection. You never know what they'd sign. But I do know it was brought up during one of the meetings that it would be the chief of police who would sign off on an agreement on that. So if we could get some kind of notification to him that we pass that as council to not allow 287G. And then also on the tribal IDs, you know, with the HHS committee bringing forth that recommendation that they travel to different states, different cities, different urban areas to allow our tribal members to get access to tribal IDs. I think that's an amazing idea. We were recently in Minneapolis to help assist our tribal members up there, and they were beyond thankful that the Oglala Sioux tribe was there, that had a presence there, that we were there for our people. But I also believe that we have to respectfully, as council representatives, allow the programs to administer their own programs, to come up with a plan, to come up with to be in place with what they have in their budgets. You know, the tribal council, we still owe $99,000 to the enrollment 638 program. And they've been requesting that be refunded to them for all the tribal IDs that have been given out in the past. So, you know, we have to respect our programs. We just can't go and, you know, we have to have communication with them and trust that they'll also come up with a plan that's contingent to what their guidelines follow with these 638 programs. But I do believe that hopefully at one of these committees, we can come up with a resolution to allow them to utilize their funds in that way to assist our members that live in the urban areas, because it's extremely important, especially with all the attacks that we're getting on as a tribal, you know, just being a brown skin, the attacks that we get. They're real out there, and our people appreciate us being there. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Greenwald and Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Roll call.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Lunch is ready, by the way.
Yes.
No.
Julian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Bo Little White Man. Richard Greenwald Sr.
Yes.
Lyle Weston.
Yes.
Jackie Sears.
Oha.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Ha.
Garfield Still. Craig Dillon. David Poyer. Norman Standing Soldier.
Yes.
Troy Little.
Yes. Fourteen yes, one not voting. Motion carried.
12-12.
Meeting